Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Wisdom Circle with Kiguru Terry and Heather and Jean and Terry Lee and Wisdom Seeker Joan, who is going to lead the show today. It's her
Well,
subject, and she's going to take over, and we're all going to talk about imposter syndrome and how to get out of our own way, which I know most of us out there in chat world, we've all had issues with it. So let's highlight
yes.
Joan.
Okay. Let's see. What
That's
now?
me.
Ooh, maybe someone who knows how to do it. There we
You go.
go.
You
Hi,
know
thank
what?
you very much.
We're
I'm
all
kind of
learning, and this is only our second try at this, and we're all learning, so it's all okay. Because
okay.
there's no such thing as perfection, right?
Definitely. And thank you so much, Priscilla and Heather, for having us here, and thank you for coming. Here's Juno Sphere and Kate Travel Tarot, and thanks for showing up. We're welcoming to all the people who join later and maybe watch this later too. But when we got together, we're called the Wisdom Circle, and we're going to be getting together once a month to kind of talk about a topic that we think is interesting, and we hope that you find it interesting too, and something that will apply to all of our lives. So I'm kicking it off with a presentation and a discussion about getting out of our own way, imposter syndrome, and spiritual self-sabotage. And you might know that I'm doing this because, let's see, how do I make it just, here we go. Sorry about this. Add to stream. There. Because this is really written for me, because this is I think all of us have this to some extent, but I've been struggling with this lately. So,
Me
physician,
too.
heal thyself. So let's start off with just some definitions. Imposter syndrome. It's defined as feeling like you don't measure up to your own image or to your own or other people's standards, and the fear that others will find out your success is unearned or that you don't live up to your reputation. And when I read these definitions, I thought of, remember that dancer who took his own life? He was a dancer on the Ellen Show. And he thought, gosh, if the Ellen Show ends, I can't keep up with all these young dancers. I've only got this big reputation because I'm on the show. And some people were supposing that was one of the issues that he was dealing with.
Oh, how
So
horrible.
it's a real thing. It can have, and anyhow, there are supposedly 5 expressions of imposter syndrome. And there's the perfectionist, who believes success is rarely enjoyed because you always find something you could have done better. The perfectionist is the one where if it isn't perfect, it's a failure. And the superhero, well, first of all, does anyone suffer from that one? Let's see. Let's go
I
to.
had a perfectionist mother,
Yeah, tell us about it.
Yeah.
just very demanding and wanting things her way, and very unreasonable about weird things.
Yeah.
But everything had to be perfect. Perfectly this way and that way.
My mom wasn't necessarily unreasonable, but I had 2 brothers, one older and one younger. And it didn't matter what they got on their report cards, mine was supposed to be better than theirs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
So
I'm a recovering perfectionist.
Yeah, I'd say I'm recovering.
yeah, I say
I spent a lot of my life trying to be perfect, trying to make everything perfect. And of course, everything really, you can never be perfect. And
No such thing.
so I am now recovering from that. It's been at least 15 to 20 years since I've been recovering and letting it go, because what perfectionism does is stops you in your tracks.
It really does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And it puts people off too, don't you think?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But I was going to say this for the end, but I have something that applies to that, and it was given to me a long time ago, and it's a poem. It's kind of a poem. It's from Marianne Williamson.
Oh yeah.
from Nelson Mandela's inaugural speech. So this is not new because that was 1994, but it makes so much sense. And it's for everything. I'm getting out of your own way. And what it
Mhm.
says is our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It's our light,
Beautiful.
not our darkness, that frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous?
That's true.
Actually, the question is, who are you not to be? Why aren't you? Your playing small doesn't serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. And this is what we're fighting all the time through this insecurity that we're doing. And why are we not being secure? Why are we not being as great as we are? Why are we having to work with us
Programming.
with this syndrome?
Programming. Pure and simple.
Definitely. I've always called myself a perfectionist with a messy desk. And you can say it's pretty messy over there.
But I'll make a bet you know where every little thing is.
After
Yeah.
a little bit of shuffling around. But I have some of those trends, but not the ones that would like keep the house in really good shape all the time.
Yeah.
I'm definitely a perfectionist and recovering now that Terry said we can be recovering. I definitely, I have such high standards and of myself, and people are like 20% of that would have been way past, acceptable. And you're holding yourself to such a high standard and every day, So yeah, for sure. And comparing goes into that too.
Yeah.
Well, and I think you see that in some of our careers. I had a career where I had to pay attention to detail because it involved medical devices, regulatory affairs, and quality assurance. It was the perfect thing for me because I was way into everything being right.
Yeah. Writing and editing's that way.
Mm-hmm.
And
You
it's
all-
like two different people. I was somebody different when I was teaching because in special ed, to me, it wasn't a perfectionist thing. As if you do as the best that you can. Whereas when I was actually out of the classroom with the kids, it was right back to being I need to be perfectionist.
Yeah.
Wow.
But they didn't need to be. I had to be.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, let's jump into the next one. The superhero. You feel like a fraud, so you work harder than anyone else to hide your perceived inadequacies. Now, this is one that I have done. Whenever I got into a job that kind of fit me, I felt like I was, I'm in the harness. I know how to pull. And I'd work these really, really long hours and go in on the weekends and all that. And be there, 6:30 in the morning, don't come home, don't get home until, 12, 14-hour days and all of that.
I can
But
totally relate.
oh yeah. But then the boss sat me down and said, Joan, if you're thinking that this is impressing people, it's not. It's just showing people that everybody else can get the job done in 8 hours and you're taking 12 or 14 to do it. So it can backfire on you that way too.
Wow.
But did anyone else play the superhero at work or in other ways where you just it's like, I can do this because I can work really hard?
No, I don't think
say
so.
that.
I think mine was more like I was taught to do everything the best you could. Do it the right way so you don't have to do it again. So, that's where my perfectionism came in, was like, how far is too far, I guess. So,
Yeah.
I don't know.
And both perfectionism and the superhero thing don't work so well when we're talking about spiritual development, because there's no perfect at all. And trying harder doesn't make it
Doesn't
better,
get you
supposedly.
anywhere.
And the long hours and everything, it's not gonna do it that way. Then this one I hadn't heard of before, the natural genius. If it doesn't come naturally to you and easily to you, you feel ashamed or like you're a failure. And I haven't experienced that. Does that resonate with any of you? Tell us about that, Jean.
Well, I would say somewhat if it's um, you don't measure up to your own image. Was I kind of like lumped it all together in that perfectionism kind of thing, because you have this idea of how things should be, and if you don't match it, I think that's where um yeah, the other people's standards, I would assume that other people's standards would match my standards. Um, so yeah.
But they sure don't.
Yeah, that's a surprise, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, I take it back. I guess I did have some of that tendency of if it doesn't come easy, then you're a failure on things like things that would take a really long time to learn. Like I was thinking sports like golf or tennis or something like that. I tried for a while, and if it didn't come easily, then it's like, no, I'm not interested in this because I don't think it was not because it didn't come easily, but because I didn't really like not being good at things, which is a horrible
Yeah,
thing. But that,
I think we all have a little bit of that. I
yeah,
don't like doing things I'm not good at.
yeah,
It's hard to be a beginner.
yeah. It's hard to not, be the tops in the
And yet
class and
if
all
you
of
don't
that.
try new stuff, then you're just
Exactly.
in a
It
box.
really, it can be very limiting.
Yeah. I think this one is easier to fall into. Uh, well, it's not so easy in my regular life, but I think it's easier to fall into this one in the spiritual life, where that
Mhm.
suddenly you feel like, I mean, there's this tiny, I try to avoid it at all costs, but there is this tiny idea. Oh, you're a natural born psychic medium, and only the natural born ones are the real ones, and
Right.
that's just not true. Everybody can learn this. Everybody has this. So in a way, yes, we're all natural born.
We're all natural.
But just like anybody else, some of us are long distance runners and get to go to the Olympics, and some of us just run in the neighborhood. So,
Yeah.
Right.
and sometimes we do all of that.
Yes.
We're both.
For sure. If anybody sees stuff in the chat room that you want to start, you all have control to do that. So please feel free.
Thank you.
Okay. Uh, I played the piano 2 to 3 hours a day for 10 years and never felt good enough. Boy, is that, yeah. It,
Me
in
too as
a,
a child.
Yeah, I
because,
understand that completely because
Mhm.
both of my parents are professional musicians,
Oh, yeah.
and I was never good enough for any of it. I mean, everything that I did, it was judged, and the worst was when I had piano lessons with my dad because he was, well, in his prime, he's ranked number 2 in the world.
oh
That's a bad
my,
to take your lessons from because there's always something you're not doing.
yeah,
And I would do worse in front of him than I would do the whole week. Did
of
something to
course.
they said you're worse this week than you were last week. I don't know why
Whoa.
it was worse ever. I could sit down and play it, no problem. But after practice and go back to the next lesson, it was crap. So, I can understand that from you completely. I'm there with
Yeah,
you.
definitely. And let's see, the next one, the soloist. Speaking of music, you must do it all on your own without assistance. Asking for help is a failure.
Yes, that's me a lot.
Yeah. I'm
Trying to break.
not so much that it's just easier to do it myself
Yeah,
than trying. It's harder to involve other people sometimes when it's like this. I've got the vision. I just want to do it myself.
Yeah, that's how I feel. It's just easier to do it
Yeah.
myself most of the time.
it's hard
I
to
know what
know
I'm doing.
exactly what you
If
want.
I need help, though, I will ask for it.
Yeah.
Won't I,
Exactly.
Jean? I'll call you up and ask you for help a lot. She's like the YouTube guru.
Oh, she's amazing.
You are in my
And
book.
the last one is the expert. You measure your worth by what and how much you know or can do.
Mm.
And that's a trap because there's no end to how much you can know in any field, and this one
That's
entirely
right.
too.
There's no end to learning. Now, I don't resonate with that one at all.
I think that's a really good example, Priscilla, the way that Priscilla would place me as a YouTube guru. And honestly, I just learned it, and it was easier for me to teach her because I just learned it. So, but in her eyes, I was the guru, but in my eyes, I was just kind of like learning as we go along. And this is how we all get caught up in this. I think it's a perfect example of how things can get skewed like that. Obviously, I'm just brand new like everybody else, but in
I
Priscilla,
promise you, I don't think you're a guru. I promise.
but this is, it's
Yeah,
similar.
a good example though,
Mhm.
for sure.
Okay. Well, next up, we were going to talk about spiritual self-sabotage. And I think this is something I know I do. It's a deep belief in unworthiness that prevents us from owning up to the love that is already ours to receive. We don't feel comfortable receiving, not even a simple compliment. Someone says, "Oh, nice shirt." It's like, "Oh, this whole thing," or whatever. We get stuck in negativity, engage in self-medication, and when we do those things, we lower our vibration so that we're just no longer a match to peace, love, and joy. So there was a
Hey,
spiritual
and that
counselor.
sucks.
Yeah, yeah. And this really spoke to me. I read a blog by this woman named Jennifer Hadley, and she was trying to make some changes in her life and realized that she was resisting giving up her deep sense of unworthiness, and was saying that I'd built a large part of my identity around not being good enough. And if I let that love flow into my life, I'd have to give up this carefully crafted identity of being unworthy. Now, has anybody struggled with that?
Well, I think that there should have been another category on the first page, and I think
Okay.
it should be called "Flying Under the Radar," because I was raised in an abusive, chaotic family,
Sure.
and I learned to fly under the radar. Do the best I could. Don't
Yes.
get in the way. Don't say the thing. Don't speak out for yourself because you're going to get in trouble.
Absolutely.
That kind of criticism can cause you to just kind of fly under the radar. And that also prevents you from making too high expectations for yourself. You go, oh, well, maybe I'll try to get to that part, but if I don't, it's okay. So you kind of just fly under the radar a little bit. I have to admit that does give you the most peace in that kind of a situation, but it also can make you doubt your own ideas and your own creativity and your own
Absolutely.
uniqueness.
Yeah,
as-
you put them down before anybody else can.
Exactly. Yeah. And just not taking up the space that you deserve to in this lifetime. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
like I was a great support team for anybody.
That must
I
be
felt
where I
that
get
way.
it too,
Good
Terry.
wingman.
We had an abusive childhood where we all stayed under the radar as well. As much as possible, stay out of
Called
the way.
survival.
Stay out of the
Yeah,
way.
it's survival.
Always.
I think that's why a lot of us don't remember a lot about our childhood, because we just
Yeah.
chose
Through
to
that.
put it away. Our brains couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Joan, when you sent us that ahead of time, I was really struck by this because I think that I do this as well. And kind of what Terry Lee's saying, try to go under the radar, because I also had a fairly abusive childhood as well. But it was hard. I still haven't completely wrapped my mind around the idea that I might like this constructed identity. And every time I pull a card, every time Spirit's talking to me, they're saying, let go of that. And yet I'm still a little blind. Like, well, I don't see that. What am I supposed to be letting go of? So it's always a work in progress with
Safety.
these things.
Mm-hmm.
Constantly.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I was raised in a family where the refrain was, you're every bit as good as anyone else, but you're not one iota better. And the biggest sin was having a big head, to think well of yourself. And so I learned,
Yeah, you're just being selfish
yeah, it's like, no, you can't, you're
or
supposed to get A's.
conceited. That was the word at
Yes.
my age was conceited.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That was the cardinal sin. You're supposed to get all the good grades, but you're not supposed to think, enjoy that or think that you're any good or anything like that. And just like Heather was saying, say something negative about yourself first before someone else does it, kind of get the hit in first.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. I also had the experience of, I was in some sort of I was on the speech team, and I was pretty good at it, but I would go and give my performance and just berate myself. Even if I got top marks and won the competition and everything, I would whip myself about any perceived inadequacies. And you know what? It worked. But then one day it just didn't anymore, and I didn't know what to do because that was my only technique. And it made me remember. And I told Priscilla this. Do you remember at Gone with the Wind, when Tara is taking Melly and the baby she's in the back of the wagon and they're leaving Atlanta with this horse, and no, it's not Tara. Who's Scarlett? Scarlett's the woman, and she's whipping and whipping and whipping that horse, and all of a sudden the horse falls down flat. It doesn't go down on a knee; it just drops. And so when I ever start getting on myself like that, it's like, you're never going to get Melly out of Atlanta that way. Quit whipping yourself. It'll work for so long, but then that horse isn't taking anybody anywhere anymore. So it's not a good long-term technique.
That's true.
I love that. I'm going to remember that.
We're not getting
Never get
Melly and
Melly
the
out
baby.
back to Tara.
Right.
It is.
Trying to get Melly back to Tara.
Right.
Yeah. And it becomes a habit that we don't really realize that we're
You
doing
don't.
it,
It's so subconscious. It's
yeah.
just gone so deep that you don't even realize
that's why
it.
it's really important that we're talking about it and bringing out these examples and situations. It's not right or wrong. It's just being aware of things so that we can, work on them and tend to them. That's all. Beautifully done,
Absolutely.
Jen.
And
I
we're
also-
going to, at the end, a little further down, we're going to have solutions too.
Oh.
So-
Well, hurry up. No.
I know. It's like, this is so depressing.
I know.
If you think about it, though, there's so many other things that we gained from those situations and the things that we got. Like, I have a great
Absolutely.
sense of humor. Okay. It's awesome. And I'm very proud of it. And it came from always being the coolest girl's right hand person that always made the jokes, that always was, trying to be goofy. And for a while, when I look back at that, I was kind of like, oh, kind of ashamed of it. But really, I realize it now. It's great. It's great.
Yeah.
It was a gift.
Well,
That's a good way
we
to look
signed
at it.
contracts for those childhoods.
Yeah,
That's all I can say.
we did.
We sure did.
Signed up.
And we learned a lot. We learned a lot how we didn't want to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we understand how other people also have these same difficulties.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
It makes
Yeah.
it
I want to, after our conversations with Willow, she says, we were taught not to share our troubles with anyone outside of the home. And I think that, I think that everything that we're talking
Absolutely.
here, and
Mhm.
especially what she's talking about, is there is something I think that's very much, I can't say that, I guess I was going to say unique to women. We
Well,
I would
are
think it
often
is.
taught not to blow our own horn, don't tell anybody else what's going on, don't be too big in your head, don't, I think that that's all part of this, and it's we got to get over, and I'm always just freaking
It's part of
amazed.
the disempowerment programming.
Right.
yeah.
Quit
It's
bragging-
pure and
quit
simple.
bragging about
It's
what
time
you're
to get
doing.
rid of that.
Yeah.
And that's why you guys are here. That's why we're all here.
Hey.
Empowering other women.
Exactly. And to that point, Terry and Priscilla, in the woman who wrote the book that I took some of this from, cited some research saying that there's not much documentation about men talking about imposter syndrome. And most of the Paul Brett imposter syndrome was pretty much from the workplace. But it's when you look at all the studies or all the literature about it, it's typically is discussing women, not men.
Oh yeah,
So yeah,
absolutely.
it's part of that whole cultural thing too.
Mhm.
But you're right. Let's move on. Okay. To solutions, and it's as as simple as a change in attitude, but that's not really simple. So our negative, unworthy beliefs about ourselves are in opposition to the truth that we are part of divine source. So unworthiness is a denial of the divine and of our own divine nature. So that puts the whole, like you're somehow virtuous for considering yourself unworthy, just on its head.
It does. It flips it right upside down, doesn't it?
Right.
Yeah. And so here's one solution that this woman was recommending, that when we're depressed or unhappy, it's to go on a spiritual budget, and all the negative things, the being depressed, unhappy, saying bad things about you, it's deficit spending. Can consider that income is from spirit, and the inflow of love and inspiration is income that uplifts us, and expenses are our ego patterns and beliefs that deplete us. So to get back in the black, increase the energy of spirit's love flowing into your heart and mind, and decrease the negativity, judgment, blame, and shame. Now, has anyone really thought about doing this or tried a technique, either this or something like it, that has helped you kind of get over any kind of self-sabotage or negative thinking or that type of thing?
Just a lot of shadow work.
I did affirmations
Yeah,
for sure.
Affirmations.
You just looked at yourself in the mirror, looked at yourself in your eyes, and read what you wanted to
That's
tell
always
yourself.
helpful.
Mhm.
And
I've
then I
done
would
that.
repeat these things, driving it to work every morning in the car. And
Yeah.
just, it took a lot of work. It took a lot of work.
It
It took a
does.
lot of peeling of layers. And then when you were triggered or when certain situations arose, you went right back to your, to the wounded self, I guess. But as
Yeah.
as we evolve, got better.
Yes. Thank Louise Hay for that. I mean, she was amazing, and she
Yeah.
was so empowering to so many women.
She
And
was.
yeah, to this day, I look in the mirror and pat myself on the back and say, "Hey, you're looking good. All right." I mean, just got to let go of it. And in letting go, then when you're put in that position when someone's trying to put you down or twist the situation where that makes it look like you're the one who's done it, you have the power to say, "No, I'm sorry. You need to look at that again because that was not my intention and that's not the way it happened." So, those things they start something inside of you that can kind of open up the floodgates of all those years.
As soon as you start treating it like that instead of reacting, you have flipped everything.
Yeah.
Flipped everything, because once you start doing that, that becomes a habit itself, and it makes life a lot easier.
Yes.
A lot
I,
easier.
I think for me, this habit of flipping that script happened in my work life. I'd say almost 30 years ago, where that at my work they had decided of a change in policy. Instead of like blaming people, they said, "What our new rule is, the very first thing that's going to happen is you're going to assume the best. Whoever's annoying you at work, just assume that you misunderstood that they were trying to do the best for you and try to look at it differently." And well, I'll have to say that the higher ups didn't really do that. I was the leader of my department, though, and I put this into practice for everybody, and included, but more especially for myself. When somebody was annoying me, try to think what's really going on here. So I started flipping this script like that, and then when I got into spiritual things, I still wasn't, of course, better. Uh, and I started doing the mirror work too. Like every time I went into the bathroom, take a good look at myself and and say, "I love you," or "You look good today," or, to say something nice to myself instead of something bad to myself or like, oh, you're so weird.
Yeah, I've started saying I love you, looking deep into my eyes in the mirror and telling myself I love you, rather than oh my God, look at those wrinkles.
Right.
You know what I mean? I just decided that was probably better.
Yeah.
Yep. We have some comments from the audience. AD said, make a list once a week of 20 gratitudes and
Oh,
20
that's a
things
great
you
idea.
like about yourself.
Wow.
That's a great thing.
That is great. Hi, AD. Thanks for joining us
Yeah.
today.
Yes. And
Thanks for
here's Pay Travel Tarot. To keep from having bad dreams, my counselor told me that I should put light inside me right before sleeping. And the very
Ooh,
first
neat.
night, I had a beautiful dream for the first time since I had cancer years ago. So that's a
Wow.
wonderful
That
technique.
works good too.
That's a great technique.
I like that.
Yeah, definitely. Let's see. And
Fantastic.
there we go. Anyhow, let's see what else. I think we got through this list.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Go right ahead.
I was going to say, I like what Juna Sphere just said, that she
Oh,
came to the realization of being self-critical and et cetera, things like that was a drag on the universal energy. And I have
Yes.
to say, a lot of this group helped me with that. When I was, recording on my channel and things weren't going quite as well, and maybe I said something really mean to myself. And believe me, we can be really mean to ourselves. Spirit stopped me once and said, hey, would you talk to Jean like that? Sun psychic Jean. And I'm like,
yes.
oh, never. Would you assume that she was doing something bad? And I'm like, oh, never. And she's like, okay, apply that to yourself.
Yes,
And I'm like,
indeed. We should
okay,
all
I can do
apply
that.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. I know that Susan Lynn talks about that and says you should talk to yourself the way you would talk to a toddler and be kind. The things you would say to yourself, you'd never say to a little
Toddler, I
kid.
like I'm
And
just a
that kind,
toddler.
I know, but not that it's
A
undeveloped, but just
spiritual toddler.
sweet and you be so yes. And I catch myself all the time saying, "Well, that wasn't very smart," and it's like I would say that to a little kid. So I have to. I'm working on not saying those things to myself too.
Yeah.
But it's one of the things when this is a lifelong habit that the way you show up in the world is to put yourself down. It's
Takes a while to
not
change it.
easy. It takes a while to change it. So I was just doing a reading for someone, and because of my lovely self-washing memory, it wasn't exactly this topic, but it was similar. And it came through, Spirit was saying it's like being a gymnast on a balance beam, that they never get any good if they just got off, if they just, every time they fall off, or the first time they fell off, if they just walk away. Give yourself the grace of making mistakes and forgiving yourself, and then just get right back up on the bar again and give it another try.
Yes.
Terry.
That's beautiful. That I worked in equestrian therapy, and so did Terry Suzuki, by the way. We have that in common.
That's
And one of my
right.
favorite things to do was when I was showing young people how to do things, I would purposely like make a mistake and I'd be like, oh, look, I attached this halter in the wrong way. I'm human. I made a mistake. And they would love it. Everyone would laugh and we'd all laugh about it. And it was a healing thing for me, but it was also very healing to me to pass that on to them and say, listen, everybody makes mistakes. Everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think that's so important. I think I'll interject this here because I've been thinking about this while we're talking. How important it is for us as mothers, grandmothers, neighbors, aunts, to pass that on to the young girls of this generation, because I'm telling you, Instagram is tough. I don't know if you've ever checked out what, the vibe is on Instagram with young girls and posing and cute. And I'm doing this, the latest thing, and I've got to come up with this snappy video to impress everybody. It's intense pressure. And the more that we can be open with young people today, and young girls especially, that, you are fantastic the way you are. You don't have to do anything or impress anyone. and hopefully we can encourage that to spread around the world.
That's beautiful. And absolutely, we need to help all the young ladies out there.
And another part of it, especially specific, well, for everything, but specific to this field of spiritual development, is as soon as you start putting yourself down or being worried about I'm not as good or comparing yourself or doing any of those things, that's the quickest way to shut off the flow.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to kind of think, well, my soul, they love me. I guess I have to too, and feel like, yep, I can do this. I'll keep working on it, and it's a challenge to not go there, to go negative and just throw up your hands and give up. So anyhow, if anyone sees other comments in the chat, please start them.
It does, like you just said, Joan, it stops you from connecting to spirit, and it stops you from being able to be led, because spirit comes through us. They give us the ideas, they make us feel a certain way, they give us inspiration, they you know they make us want to say things. And if we're not confident in ourselves, we're actually stifling spirit. We're actually stifling the spirit guides guiding us to do things. So we're, combating against that guidance, rather than we think it's just ourselves. But it's so much more than just ourselves, and the cost is so much greater.
Yeah.
My guides
You're
usually have
absolutely
to put it
right.
in a way that get my attention. Like recently they said, just cut it out and let it rip. All right. I could do that. It helped a lot though. It's very important, we put ourselves down, and yet the other important thing is not to take yourself too seriously. We're human beings on this crazy planet, and we're in for a wild ride. And
well, I tell you, the more I learn, the harder it is to take myself too seriously. The way this universe works, it's you have to lighten up. We're here to have a good time. We're not here to live in misery.
Right.
And it also improves.
The more you know, you don't know.
Yes.
It's that way with college too.
Sorry, Heather, go ahead.
Oh, I said it's that way with college too. The more you know, the more you don't know.
Exactly.
Teachers go out thinking there's nothing they know. They don't know enough about the subject, because they've come to that point where there's so much going on. They know there's so much more. But then they go to the classroom and realize, oh, they know a whole lot less than I do. I can help them. So it's that way with it. There's always somebody that you can help and feel confident in what you're doing, because you already know it, and they don't, but they need to. So it's it's not whether you know everything, it's whether you know enough to help.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Absolutely. Do you know enough to help?
Yeah.
And if you do, you should help.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Because this is really an all hands on deck period of time, where no matter where we are, spiritually or just as human beings, our love and light is needed. And we did
we're here.
Buy the ticket for this. It seems like the wildest roller coaster in the park this period of time, but it's exciting too. Wonderful.
It also improves and strengthens your relationships around you. Once you learn how to give yourself the benefit of the doubt, give yourself some slack, give yourself understanding and patience and acceptance, then you can see this in other people. You don't have such high expectations of other people around you. Like, why didn't they sweep the floor the right way? And you put these demands on yourself, but you also put these demands on others. Whereas if we start to have this compassion, this understanding, this allowance, or just just the compassion and understanding. I can't think of another word, but and then this trickles out into the relationships around you, and then you have like a kumbaya kind of a atmosphere around you. It does
Kind of
work.
like this community.
Empathy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of
We
like
have empathy.
pay
You know,
it
once you
forward,
realize we're
but
all
pay it
souls,
all.
we understand that we're all souls on a journey, and
Mhm.
and it's easy to have empathy. And I find it much easier to have empathy with people I completely disagree with. Just understanding that we're all souls and they have their journey.
It's a whole lot easier, isn't it, than hating?
Oh, yes.
Well,
It's just having a little empathy. You just can go, yeah, okay, I get that, and walk away rather than letting it eat at you because they don't agree with something that you believe.
Right. Yeah, it's just as damaging to yourself. And I
Mm-hmm.
think it was Anita Morjani once. I was listening to her on YouTube, and she was talking about whenever you throw something out at someone else that's negative, a little bit of it sticks to you,
You bet.
and it stays in your heart.
And all of that can help with subduing what you can do,
Yes,
and
Yeah.
contributes to the imposter system instead.
yeah, the comparison, and it all comes from fear, and just
Mhm.
another one of those things that clogs up the pipes. So when
Yeah.
spirit tries to get in, they're all clogged up. And as Terry Lee said, you just have to blow out the pipes, sort of, and just let it rip. Let's see. I had started what after hours conversations with Willa. Sometimes I have to tie my hands and feel I need to tape my mouth. And
Me
yeah,
too.
um, I've literally sometimes sat on my hands so that I, will just kind of just chill out and let things pass.
I'm
But
famous for taking 3 deep breaths.
well, that's
Just
a good one.
breathe. Just breathe.
Right.
We need to just go for a walk or something like that.
Mhm.
But yeah, does anybody
But
else in
when we
the?
talk to each other about our imposter syndrome, it helps get rid of it. It helps to know that there's other people that have the same issues, and maybe theirs is not exactly like yours. They rarely are,
Mhm.
but then it makes it more of, I don't need to be that way. That's just something that society told me I needed to be, and when have I ever paid attention to that? Right?
Yes, and it. I think some of us do it with the idea that the worst sin or the worst transgression is to think so well of yourself that would be an insult to others. But when it's kind of the opposite,
No, because
that
it
we're
brings love.
mhm, it impedes the love among and between us. And
One of
yeah,
one of my favorite wisdom seeker Joan quotes is she says, "Don't judge somebody on their worst day."
oh yeah, that's true.
So I that just blew my mind to consider that it may just be their worst day and not to judge. It means not judgment, no
Mhm.
judgment. Like you never know. Somebody could just be having a bad day. And it was so profound. It really did make an impression on me. It was really neat. I'm not sure where that, but yeah, I apply it now.
oh, good. I don't even remember saying that, but I'm glad.
It doesn't matter.
But
It was good.
hey, that was pretty good.
I don't think
Maybe
we
it
do
was
remember the really good ones because I think they come from our higher self through our
That's
mouths.
true. That's true.
Hey, good
That's
point.
why we don't remember them.
Talked to people so many times, and they've sought me out for some counseling, or we're just talking about something, and stuff comes through me, and I'll be finishing up what I'm saying and walk away and go, I did not say that, and I learn from it myself.
Mhm.
So
Me too.
oftentimes, spirit will channel through us to help others, and it's always important too to understand the uniqueness. Nature. Not every flower is the same. Not
Mm-mm.
every squirrel is the same. I mean,
Yeah.
we're all so unique, and we have to
Mhm.
remember that when we're dealing with someone perhaps who's feeling troubled or upset. We've got to just relax and let their uniqueness shine and support that instead of the way we think it should be.
because you want
everything has to be.
everybody to be absolutely everything they can be, and not be afraid to be everything they can be.
Yes.
And everybody, and that being afraid is what holds them back.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
We need to be out there being the bright stars that we should be, and that we can be, and that we are. But we refuse because we say, oh, well, then I might be better than somebody else. No, be the best you can be.
Mhm.
I think boundaries come in here too.
Mhm.
Oh, sure.
Boundaries allow us to behave in a way that the imposter syndrome does not come into play. It's taking back our power and understanding what we allow and what we don't allow. It's all intertwined. I mean, this is all so related to so many different
True.
so many different topics that, especially when you're invited and you feel pressured um, to attend certain events, maybe family or work events, and you feel bad, so you go. Like, what's that all about? Why would you feel bad and then go? Like, you have to
It makes no
honor
sense, does
yourself
it?
and how you
Yes.
feel and how you feel when you're around a certain crowd. If you don't like the people that you work with, don't go to the parties, like there's just such pressure, such like they say, don't listen to what you feel, listen to what the society demands of you,
Yes, exactly. It's the exact opposite of what we should be doing. We should be paying every bit of attention to how we feel.
We have
That's
to
our
find our own
heart,
way. AD
our
made
higher
a lovely
heart
comment.
speaking.
Sorry.
And spend our time with the people who feel like we do.
Mhm.
And your whole life will be easier because you're not dealing with those people that you don't really want to have their energy. You've got to be around it at certain times, but why spend your free time in that energy that you don't benefit
I have
from?
the perfect solution. Move 3,000 miles away.
Aw. Well,
Sorry, you can't make it for Christmas. Yeah.
sometimes I find it a little, I mean, it's good practice occasionally to be around people that completely disagree with you and say
Sure.
things that are
Absolutely, it is.
highly offensive to you. And it's a good practice to be like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's out there. It's in
No
the
reaction,
but
just
it's not
chill.
in me.
Mhm.
Yep.
Sorry you
But
feel that
at the
way.
same
Sorry we
token,
have a difference of opinion, but hey, let's enjoy this cake.
right.
I think
And when you're done, say goodbye
and say
don't ever
goodbye
see
and
them
leave.
again.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm
And
not
don't-
saying I seek that out. I certainly don't. And I just think it's important to be able to, when you're confronted with that situation, lots of times, I don't want to say, well, I'm not going to your house for dinner because you know who's going to be there, and I can't handle that. I just that doesn't work for me. I have to get that practice in, and just love that person for who they are. And there's ways to walk around to the other, pet the dog, or talk to the children, or
Absolutely.
you can avoid.
That's funny.
I saw a comment AD wanted mentioned, and I wanted to point it out because she was talking about performance anxiety, and she's saying, like for psychic mediums, that's an issue, and that practice helps us get through that. And it made me think of the fact that when I started, I was a singer, and when I would perform, I'd make my first mistake, and then I'd be great. The rest of the show was awesome. I'd hit every note because I already made my mistake. That kind of worked for me when I started reading for people. I'd be like, oh, well, tell me if this is, you validate this. And then they go, no, no. And they're like, okay, let me back it up. Let me just go back in again and consult spirit and make sure I've got this all right. It's so wonderful. To me, it was so freeing just to relax with it. Just let that relaxation make you more comfortable. And then the flow comes right back.
Right.
Yeah.
When that's one thing I often tell myself is, you know what? Spirit is 100%. You maybe 80. If I can live with that, that's good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons that I wanted to address this topic since last spring or last summer. After my husband died, all of a sudden my readings just fell off and I wasn't getting any, and that was just fine. I just wasn't up to it for a while. And now they were slowly starting to come back. And when you just have them very infrequently, and one that isn't like quite up to your standards, it can be devastating, or at least it was for me. So that's why I decided to offer readings by donation. Pretty much, you can sign up for free, and I'll send you a PayPal link afterwards. And thankfully, it was a kindness to me. People have been picking up on that, and I've been getting more readings. And now it's like, oh yeah, I'm back in the flow. And it's so when you're doing more of them, and you have one that isn't so great, yeah, but these other ones were, and you can allow yourself to not, to fall off the balance beam, but get right back on again, and it's not quite so devastating. So thanks to everybody in the audience. I'm doing them through the end of March, so take advantage if you'd like.
I took advantage of it. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you for doing that. Yeah.
Well, and I have to say, Sun Psychic Jean is very gracious. She hosts a psychic medium practice circle that we have, and that is so valuable to me. I see it on the calendar, and I'm like, yay, yay, because it's just an interesting twist. We're all in the same area of searching and seeking, and we experiment with each other, and we're able to communicate with each other
And trying to hone our gifts.
Yes, it's really good.
It's a safe space.
It is.
Just, yeah.
Right.
It's also a nice way, both in that circle and just on YouTube in general, to see how everyone does it differently. And I think everyone says, oh, if I could only read like her or like him. But it's not that. It's like other people are thinking the same thing about you. Because as Terry was saying, it's like all the lilies of the field, each one of them is beautiful.
Well,
And we have to validate it ourselves and be grateful for what we can do, rather than being just so focused on not being able to do, or currently not being able to do some of the other things that you might like to be able to do. So
Yeah,
that's
it seems
really
to
helpful.
me that the more we practice it, whichever one of our gifts it is, the stronger it gets. So you
Definitely.
spend a while on this one, spend a while on this one, spend a while over here.
yes.
There's so much more, so much to learn, and we all have the power to learn it all.
Exactly.
We just
Right.
have to trust.
Now I know that I grew up being just fascinated with psychic mediums, and
Me too.
like John Edwards, man, he went, and what is this? And what's to do with this shovel? What happened there? And when I started reading, it was like nothing like that. And I'm like, wow, that's so weird. We're all different. We all read differently. And it's so beautiful, I think, because the message from spirit is different. It's completely tailored to the person who needs to hear it. That soul needs to hear it in this way. And
That's right.
I just think it's beautiful.
And when we read together, we're reading from a message from the same person, but they talk to us in different ways, and our not what is it, reference bank is different, so it comes through in a different way, and it's so rounded, and it just touches on all different points. I think it's so beautiful.
It is beautiful. I love to watch you all read together.
Ah,
The four of
It
you,
is
when
ju-
you get together, it's just magic.
It's like the light coming through a prism, and it's the same light, but it explodes it, and so that other people can see their favorite color or the way that relates to them.
Yeah.
And I just love that. It's so fun.
yeah, that's perfect.
Can you imagine how boring it would be if all of us read exactly the same?
Oh,
That would
it
You
be
know,
would be.
it's kind of
Right.
interesting because it's a reflection of mankind. We're all doing it differently, and we're all loving each other, even though we're all doing it differently. And it just shows that's what we can have on this planet. If we get
Yeah.
our shit together.
Yes.
And we are. We're helping the planet get it
Mhm.
together.
Yes, we are.
Willow said
I
it very
love
well.
that, Willow.
We all have our own sparkle, and sharing is what we're supposed to do. I agree entirely.
100%.
Yep.
Yeah. I loved it when the guides gave me this message. I still, to this day, I'm in wonder over it. You have a unique contribution to the cosmic consciousness of the universes. Every time I say that, it just freaks me out. Think about
It's
that.
I know
beautiful.
it's so big. It's huge.
And it is huge.
Mhm.
But we
I know.
are. But we are.
We are.
It's
We
true.
are
Each
part
and
of the
every one of
cosmic.
us.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just it's it's hard to keep that frame of reference in the day-to-day life, you know. I'm a
Yeah.
cosmic being. I don't want to pay the parking ticket, you know. We're cosmic beings. Don't park. Don't parallel park. You know, I don't know. Whatever. You know, it's you know, we have to live in this world, but still keep it. But no, it's challenging, but that's what it is to be human, is to
Mhm.
evolve and to live our spiritual existence in a human world.
So
Mhm.
true. And that's why we chose to come here, because it is challenging. Our souls are here to grow. So we came here to be challenged.
We signed up for the 8 peep courses here on Earth.
That's right. Especially the star seeds.
Oh, really?
What was I
Yeah.
thinking? No, I'm really happy to be here, and I'm really happy to be here at this particular time of mankind. I think it's very exciting time to be
Really
alive.
exciting.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love our community. I love all of the different readers, all of the different types of um, offerings that come through, and all just the diversity and the enormity, and all of the participators, people in the chat who are
Mhm.
also high vibrational and empathic and intuitive, but they just don't, they're not here with us. But I know there's many, many of us out there just like us that are just mirroring us back. So we can definitely feel it. And I say this a lot, but I'm feeling it right now. So I thought I'd mention it.
I'm glad you did. I agree with you.
Mhm.
The vibe from this community just it makes me so happy. And you know, the fact that Heather could be here just a few days after surgery, it's like
Wow.
it's a
Yeah.
healing vibe to be here. You know, it helps her heal. The
Yeah.
love that's out there that's being sent around is
Listen, yeah. You can feel
incredible.
it comes into everybody who watches, whether it's now or later. That love still comes through to you
Yes.
from
That's true.
everybody that's been here.
Mhm.
Cool.
So
And
cool.
we send
Beautiful.
it right back out to you.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
just so beautiful.
It really is.
It's that yin yang. It's that figure eight. You know, the it's just the flow of
Mhm.
life.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
And it's good for ourselves individually and us as a community. But when you think about, I'll use myself as an example. Instead of spending hours and hours on Twitter just obsessing over political news, now, well, I might be watching some of the political psychics and things too, but I'm also watching a lot of other things. So it's not just reducing the fear and negativity of obsessing about things happening in the 3D world, but so it's not just neutral, it's going positive by trying to affiliate with other people who are focused on putting love and high vibrations into the world. So we are making a difference
We
on an
are.
individual and a bigger scale. Yeah.
I agree 100%.
That's true.
We absolutely are.
Mhm.
Well, this was fun. I liked having kind of a coffee clash with everybody here without
It
the
is
coffee.
kind of, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, it's great. The conversation flows, and out in the chat, the conversation flows with
Yeah.
us as well. It's very cool. Very
Oh,
cool.
I love the chat. They have such great ideas and things to
Mhm.
say, things to share.
Tracy says, Heather, you look so great for just having surgery. I know. I'm telling you, I saw a picture of her the day of, and she had her makeup on and her hair done. I said, how did they do that?
Yes.
Not the day of
Yes,
surgery,
the
she
day I had
didn't.
surgery, no.
But usually, you know, you're all plaster because you're in the bed
Mhm.
all the time. She looked fabulous.
I know.
Yes. Yeah.
She's doing really
We
good. And thanks for all the vibes, all the love and healing light you guys have
Right.
been
Thank you
sending
all
us.
so much.
We really appreciate
definitely.
it.
And I'm sorry, but I don't remember the conversation. I'm trying to remember who said that.
It, it was Tracy Ralph.
Right. But I'm sorry, I don't remember the conversation. Good.
That's
Oh.
quite all right.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
not doubting you one bit because I'm sure my higher self did have a conversation with you. I just don't remember it.
Well, painkillers will make
Yeah.
yeah.
things weird too.
Goodness for
So,
painkillers, yes.
Girl, have fun, relax.
so
Yeah.
what is everybody up to next? Thank you, all you ladies, and Wisdom Seeker Joan. Thanks for being our host
Woohoo,
of
Joan,
today. It was
Today.
absolutely
Thank you.
Good
Thank
job.
you.
you
I
have
love
that
it.
bar.
And then next month is Terry Suzuki, right?
Yep.
No
And
pressure.
what are we going to be doing on
We are going to be talking about astral travel.
astral travel?
Ooh.
That's
That's going to
exciting.
be really interesting.
And yeah, I assure you, I'm not an expert on this, but we're, gonna try to bring something to the table to talk about. So
Yeah,
Well,
learning
I think that'll
together.
be fun. We
Yeah,
all have
there are a few of us who
experiences.
do
yeah,
astral, so that's
Oh,
cool.
that's going to be neat.
Yeah.
And we're not going to have a show tomorrow, so Heather can rest. But on Friday,
Good.
Pure Visionary Terry Lee's going to be with us. Yippee skippy.
It's going to be wild.
Yeah, that we're going to do past life type stuff from regressions and all of that. And I might even say a couple of things about my most recent one because that was really
Ooh.
interesting.
That's
Yeah.
exciting.
I just
Yeah.
did a QHHT one. And I'm not ready to talk about a lot of it, but there's a couple of things that were kind of fun. So
Cool.
that'll be fun. We can add that in too.
Hear about all your past lives.
Good. I want to hear about yours. I'm bored with mine. I've heard them now. It's yeah. Anyway, so that'll be on Friday at 3:00 Eastern. So I hope everybody in the chat will join us. And thank you guys for being here today. Thank you so much. And most importantly, Heather, thank you for being here today. It's
Oh, my
brilliant.
Yes.
We love you all. Thank you,
Yeah.
chat room. Thank you, beautiful ladies. I can't wait to do it again next month. And we'll say goodnight.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.